Hey guys, it's Matt. There are two big topics in this presentation, and I think both will need to be settled in the comment section. I'll definitely give you what I lean towards, but again, I think the answer to both will need to be settled in the comment section and probably won't be settled for a long time. But we need to keep thinking about these things. Both are very, very important. And of course, it relates to step three, reality telling us about who we really are. This is not a waste of time screen exercise at all. So even though elements of the screen will be analyzed as we do this. So that's the evidence we have to go on. So topic one, and then I'll talk a little bit about it, and then topic two. Topic one is why it seems crystal clear at this point that the presentation of reality, the presentation of what is real, the Bozo meter over time continuously has to be turned up towards the absurd, where to now it almost seems pinned on the absurd. I'm kind of maybe jumping to a conclusion here, but I think I'm going to do that because I think most of you would agree. My conclusion is the reality, it has to do it because the proof's in the pudding, it's doing it. All right? It has to do it. The question here is why it has to do it. And I'm going to float some different theories. So just if anybody's not following, the presentation of what they told you the Vietnam War was about. Of course, the same creeps cook up war on both sides. They play both sides for their own aims. But the presentation of the news in the 70s, in the 80s, even in through most of the 90s, Walter Cronkite, was it Walter Cronkite? Yeah, Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite? Well, yeah, Walter Cronkite, when the news anchor, before he became an anchor, he was reporting from Vietnam, him standing outside Saigon, reporting on the Vietnam War, although every bit of it was every bit of the war with the thousands dead, played on both sides by the same creeps, cooked up, this whole global struggle of capitalism, communism, played by the same puppeteers on both sides. But the presentation of it, Walter Cronkite standing outside Saigon reporting, it was a very serious and believable presentation. So conspiracy theorists happen to be saying, look, these people play war on both sides. They profit on both sides. The outcome's already determined. They send people off to their death. And people would have an awfully hard time accepting that, as I would, because the presentation of it was serious. And it was well done. Well, of course, in this bad example, the massive death helps add to the believability because it delivered real death. But I'm talking about anything that may be. This is a bad example because too many real people died. But Sputnik or the space race in the 60s. I assure you, if you lived through the late 60s, you didn't look at it as completely. If you did, it's a very rare thing with a very rare set of eyes. The presentation was believable. Okay, even if you saw President Nixon talking to a buzzed cauldron live, it just was the quality of the presentation was better. All right, it wasn't, even though there were elements that, knowing what we know now, looking back with the set of eyes we have now, with the veils we dropped, many elements were not believable. But it would be, to be honest, you would be hard pressed to see it the same way if you lived through it during the time, because the presentation of it was an A. Now, what do we see? We see a complete breakdown, absurdity, Bozo show news presentation. If you go to the Washington Post right now with a tagline, the very, very important and literal tagline, "Democracy dies in the dark," there's an article about a manatee that was found where somebody basically carved Trump in the side of the manatee. And it doesn't mean the manatee's dead or washed up on the beach and bleeding Trump with a big, carving of Trump. No, somebody got in the water, swam with the gentle giant. You can swim with these manatee. I've seen people do it. They don't bite back. They're slow. They have no teeth. You can pet them, and it's not good to do that to a man. And I've seen many people do it, swim with the manatee. But they're so slow. They're covered in barnacles, lichen, moss. Somebody scraped away the barnacles, lichen, and moss, and just didn't look like it hurt it in any way, at least The whole story is a fabrication. It's bullcrap. So who knows what's real? But they just carved out Trump, big font, Trump, and then they sent the manatee, of course, along on its way. And somebody, of course, came across that same manatee. Look, hon, it says Trump across the side of the manatee as it swam by the canals of Boca Raton. Well, let's get in the water and take pictures, and then, of course, send it to the Washington Post. It's all cooked up, all bullcrap. The reason for this story. It gets to a certain type of liberal that cares in a certain way for animals and green movements, and then they get upset at Trumpers, and then that creates energy in this system because it needs two to tango, and some creep in the back room behind the screen literally feeds off the energy that's created by putting everybody in divisive camps. But the loosh is real. The energy, the negative energy created that something feeds on is real, but that's not the point of this video. But these are the absurd headlines that we don't just need, and I'm not just talking about what you can go look at right now, although it is absurd across the board. The point is the absurdity meter has been ramping up, and the point of this first section is, why does the reality have to do that? And if anybody's saying, well, what do you mean? You can't assume the reality has to do that. Okay, why is then the reality forced to do it? It is what it is. It is happening. So you can't say it's happening whether the whatever the reality is at the ultimate level is doing it on purpose for whatever its own aims are, or per its contractual arrangement on how it has to do certain things so certain people wake up, and certain people come into their spiritual selves and understand things about themselves that they didn't before the reality started to completely break down and become absurd. Whatever, it has to do this for some reason. The reason, the first section here poses why. Why does it have to do that? Now, nobody listening to this would disagree that the absurdity meter, for whatever the reason, has not been turned up decade after decade. I mean, again, even the presentation of space. And again, you can't assume you'd have the same veils dropped back if you were watching it live in the late 60s, or you'd have the same set of eyes. You can't assume that. Absolutely not. I told you I was a Matrix child. I've believed in every bit of the 7-Eleven as a part-time job vet through 2006, 2007. Every bit of it. Early in 2002 or 3, we started talking about, well, how did it come down just like, 10 seconds? So. And my cousin, I remember, I've told you this before, my cousin said, Matt, he read something somewhere. Once it started to come down, it created the force of nuclear weapons, as Chekhov said in the fourth Star Trek. Nuclear weapons. It created the force of nuclear, show me the nuclear vessels. It created the force of nuclear weapons, and then it all went to dust. That's why there was no rubble. I believed every bit of it. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for telling me. I believed it. So I was there. I was there. Without a certain set of eyes, you're not going to see through the presentation of space. But what do we have today? We have Elon Musk running around, running 50 global companies at the same time. First stages that run up and flip around and come back like a pencil, land on their own like helicopters with bad CGI. And the part that goes up sends 100,000. It's always an iridium satellite. It spits out the side. You never see it. And a mouse runs around the engine, and then he shoots a red Tesla Roadster into a billion-year orbit around Mars. And it says the absurdity meter in any of these sticky notes where you would possibly throw the dart in any category has the absurdity meter is pinned. It's like a car redlining. It can't go much more absurd, or it'll break Neil's plausibility meter. If the plausibility meter is broken, then it's a headless cab driver moment for the people. People will say, "Maybe those conspiracy theories were right." They have to. It's pinned against the plausibility threshold. Anymore, even the people around us will wake up to it. So there's nobody listening to this that would say the presentation of reality in all fronts has gotten into the absurd level. Nobody would agree with that. The question is, why? Why? Now, that's part one. Part two, should we even get into part two? Well, maybe. maybe let's just continue. I don't want to. I don't. Let's just keep going with this. This is going so long. I don't want to. I don't want to mix it up at this point. Why has it? Why does it have to do this, or why is it forced to do this? So just if anybody's struggling with even that basic premise, um, okay, the creeps have been in power. They've been in power a long, long time, probably going back through 1776. Going back a long, long time. Why does the news presentation have to be a clown show? See, I'm saying it has to do this, and I'll give you my theory on why I think it has to do this, or how what the at least this is would be related as to why it needs to do this. But I'm saying it's forced to do this because it doesn't have to do this if it wasn't forced to do it, if that made any sense. Meaning, okay, they've always been in power and they just want to continue their power, right? They just want to continue to feed off the energies they can create by getting everybody assigned into camps and everybody into their, as Levet would say, on one pillar or the other, creating friction, creating energy that they can feed off loosh, anxiety, fear, worry, stress, etc. The whole society's set up to create those energies. L.C. King's galvanic cell. You need two different things to make energy, and you got to mix them typically. Mix them violently, create some more energy. If you have one thing, it doesn't do anything. Nothing can suck the loosh from it. So they don't. Why does the the puppet Donald J. Melvin Gates Trump? Why does he have to push the absurd level? Now, I have to back up here. There might be a certain percentage watching this, but it won't be a big percentage, maybe 10%, that believe he's a real president that was elected and he has power. And folks, I mean, anybody that thinks that, there's a reason why 90% of the people here see it basically as an actor, that he probably can't even decide what type of fish or steak to serve the Japanese prime minister, and or if he can decide what type of fish or steak to serve the Japanese prime minister. That's the extent of this decision-making ability. The president is told what to do by powers much higher than the president. For anybody struggling with that, there's a reason why 90% of us, it's beyond belief that. It's just that's what it is. All right? That's these prime ministers, presidents, anybody that puts their big fat face on the news is told what to do by higher powers. So if he's told what to do, people think, oh, Matt, his arrogance gets out of control in his tweets. And he's playing the exact role that he's told to play. All right? He incites the left to a degree that is unprecedented. The hatred in him from even people remotely considering themselves just 1 foot into the left, the hatred he elicits is a loose generation machine, the likes of which is unprecedented. All right, he's as hated, and I don't want to go there because it could strike the video. I was gonna forget it. The point is, guys, but if you want to create a believable political system without at least a certain percentage of us waking up to it, why do you push it into the absurd level? Why do you have to? Why does Trump have to be so outlandish and the ridiculous tweets and banned on Facebook? You could still have 100 million liberals hating him, or 250 million liberals if you include much of Western Europe hating him, if you just bring him inside the confines of what the limits on what a president would do or act if it was the president. The Bozo show, the reality meter is gone off the charts. It's redlined. It's redlined to points where it probably gets into the theory as to why it needs to do this. Now, we can see it. It's almost like the reality exists around us. Let me just get into my theory. Like a wheat and tares exercise. It has to create a situation so a certain amount of people see it. These are people like you, people like me. Where the presentation of Walter Cronkite standing outside, reporting outside of Saigon, even if it's the same bankers that cooked up both sides, it's still, no one's going to see through it. No one's going to see a problem with it. The presentation was too good. It was too real. And real death helps make the presentation real. So mine is more about the reality itself is forced to create a wheat from the tares situation. That's one of the purposes of reality itself, to separate one group from another. And the separation can only be, for some reason, needs to be accelerated right now. Doesn't mean I think the end of the world's coming in a few weeks or anything like that. A pole shifts or plasma event. No, I don't. Another Christmas came. We went through that. Nothing. What did I say would happen physically to the physical environment after the solstice through Christmas? I said, "quote Nothing's going to happen." That doesn't mean you can't ride certain energies or make sure when the cement starts to really harden, you're not, you're hardening standing outside of the cement, with your boots in the cement, standing on the right side of the river. You could use the energy. I'm saying from a physical perspective, I said, quote unquote, what's going to happen? I said before the solstice, all this fear on YouTube, nothing's going to happen, is what I said. So there's an acceleration of the Bozo show, the acceleration of a breakdown of what a real news presentation is supposed to look like. And it creates an acceleration of wheat versus tares, an acceleration of those who see and those who can't. And but in terms of, the theories just could range from A to Z in terms of why the reality itself has to do this. And for some reason it has to do it because it's doing it. The old theories, I think first grade theories of, well, maybe it's not first grade theory. I shouldn't see, it's not right for me to tag it that way. I should just present it objectively. Somebody might say, and more I think about it, it was completely wrong to tag it. Someone might say, Matt, this is incredibly good news, and I was completely wrong in tagging it because there could be complete merit to this. So you see, they were sure of themselves in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Their power was set. It's like predictable power. Electricity, predict the way you could predict electricity you're going to get if you go and stay in a hotel room in Paris. The lights probably aren't going to go out if you're staying in a hotel room in Paris tonight. Where if you're staying in a hotel in Pakistan, maybe even now, but in 1945, the lights are going to go on and off all night. It was like their systems, their power was more rooted and consistent. And somebody might say, they're losing. The reason for the Bozo show, Matt, is they're losing their power. Okay, I hear you, but I'm not sure that is the reason for the Bozo show. I have to be realistic about this because from the end of March through the last week in April, I saw them put the entire Western world into a mask. I saw the progression first week in Wawa, one or two. This is the first, right after the news came out of the hand, the Wu hand, 2 or 3 masks, 4 masks. Then the next week, half. Next week in Wawa, almost everybody in masks. 4 weeks, everyone except me in masks. Fifth week, employees coming towards me saying you cannot enter. You must have you must wear one. Moving around the counter towards me. So in terms of, if you want to put out the reality presents a Bozo show because all their power is breaking down, they have no ability to present it in a way that makes any sense or in a way that's believable. Putting the Western world into a mask in 5 weeks, that does not seem like a group that has lost its mojo. People will get on me like, well, Matt, you just gave them power. Well, what am I supposed to say? We went through that. We all went through that. I can't lie and say that it was very surprising and amazing what they were able to pull off. We lived it. You might just delude myself that didn't happen. So I have to talk about it. We have methods and we will refine techniques. Every morning I wake up, I grab my orgone necklace and my crystal that Brandy gave me, and I said, they're pushing Neil's plausibility threshold. If this gets any more ridiculous, there will be a 100 monkeys moment times a million, where millions will start to say, "This is." These conspiracy theories guys have been working on me. Ken and Tony will say, "This Matt's been working on me for years. Maybe he's right. This is absurd, man." It's a headless cab driver moment. So you know, there's a reason why it's like the reality has to is pushing the absurd level, and the presentation of everything has to be ridiculous. If you just throw a dart in anything anymore, the presentation is ridiculous. Elon Musk just can't act like a serious CEO, and just they can't just keep him at Tesla and SpaceX. No, he has to dabble in a flamethrower company. You know, why? Didn't somebody in the back room, like some intern, say, well, we're some of that we've taken polls on Elon here, and we're struggling. His numbers are going down. People are starting to not really. There's a small segment outside the truth community that's starting to believe he's not the CEO of 400 globally leading companies. We can't keep pushing this. We have to back off with Elon. We have to make him more presentable. The next week on the Rogan show, we're going to smoke pot? No. We need to make him look more real. We're losing the numbers on Elon. And somebody across, nah, it's okay. Somebody at the creepy table, and you're an intern. Go get me some more coffee. I mean, nobody asked for your advice. In fact, we're going to make him start a flamethrower company next week. Like, there's a reason they don't, nobody sane, if you're this evil genius, would make that decision that you want to introduce, Elon's going to make a flamethrower company in the middle of California wildfires. Unless you have to do that, contractually or otherwise. The reality has to push the red line on the absurdity. The theories are off the charts. You could come up with anything. That the minions are here playing a role on behalf of the reality itself. The reality itself is here to separate wheat from the tares, or at least to assist those that recognize who they really are in their spiritual journey. And, the minions on behalf of the reality, and Jared serving his tea and crimpets and his silver set. You get a phone call, the big guy, whoever that might be, outside, even something beyond the screen. Oh, you can, the people here that manage the screen, the minions, whatever, this is, in terms of the cosmic sense of all that ever was and all that ever will be, this is the lowest of the low. Scum, slime. This is why constantly in these Wrath of the Titans, Revenge of the Titans movies, the Trojan War with Brad Pitt or Troy, it's always like the same themes over and over. The gods envy us, mortals. It's always the mortals are always put higher than the gods. Zeus in Wrath of the Titans or Revenge of the Titans, as Liam Neeson saying, "Well, he's so powerful for so long, but when gods die, we go nowhere. We just go into oblivion. At least when you mortals die, you go off. Your spirit continues. Truth drop, truth drop, truth drop, truth drop. Games, 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 games. Wanting to get out." Jeffrey. So the themes in these movies are over and over. The gods seem so powerful. The minions, that's the minions. That's the Melvin P's. That's the minions running around here on behalf of the screen and the reality. But ultimately, when push comes to shove, it's like, no, you mortals are always have been, always will be. We're screwed. The minions are kind of screwed to this place. Although the smart people believe that even they can transform their incarnation to become more like us. But this whole place is 179.5 degrees flipped. We seem powerless, whatever. We're holding all the power in terms of all that ever was and all that ever will be versus these Melvin P. and these Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan show and all this ridiculous. They seem, billions and billions. They're jokes. The more billions they give them, the reality is 179.5 degrees reversed, if not 180 degrees. Then these are clowns. If you back up far enough and look down, they don't have any power. Whatever. So it's like a wheat versus tares thing with a phone call, and it says, we're not getting enough people to understand who they are spiritually. Well, we're doing all we can down here. We just had Buzz Cauldron and Neil talk to President Nixon live from the surface of the moon. If that doesn't wake anybody up, people aren't buying it. People are believing it's real. What do you want us to do? I don't know. Per your own metrics, where's your absurdity meter on the way you present the news and politics and geopolitical politics? I don't know. We're at an 8. Well, take it to 10 out of 10 through the year 2000. Take it to 10 out of 10. And post some jobs at 7-Eleven as a part-time job, create some event that's so impossible to believe the way it's presented, that it'll jumpstart millions of people on steroids into seeing who they really are and how fake and ridiculous this reality really is. You want us to do that? Yeah, do it. You're below your threshold. We'll replace your asses down there. You're working for who? I don't know who he's talking to on the phone, these minions. And I'm not saying Jared's on the phone, he's serving. I'm saying it's like minions at the table on behalf of this corporation or behalf of this prime minister or behalf of whatever. And then of course you have the families above that that are worth trillions. The Melvin P's and the Forbes and Fortune of most richest is a joke. It's all new money. This old money didn't go away. But they're the ones pulling the strings, and they're probably the ones getting the phone calls. Saying we have to turn the reality meter to the absurd. Yeah, do it quickly, because in terms of this wheat versus the tares, we need more people. We're not getting enough people in this bucket. So if anybody's screaming at me saying, well, they're doing it for us, in a way, in reality is playing out in a way for us, yes, in my opinion. But the minions themselves, they don't care for us or anything. They're playing a role. It's that same snake biting you in the arm, so you can get used to the venom. I've been through that a million times. I don't ever want to give any credit to these minions, these Zuck the Borgs type. I just think they're the lowest of the low. I don't care for you. They're playing a role. But the question is again, guys, why the absurdity meter has to be turned up. And the only thing that I'm proposing right now is that, if a reality is supposed to separate wheat from tares, and you need a certain amount of wheat, and you need more bushels, then you have to turn the absurdity up so more people go, this is ridiculous. This is I see through the reality now. Now I'm wheat. I've come into my own. Then that is a possibility. But there's 1,000 theories. But ultimately, no matter what your theory is, I think ultimately just recognizing that for whatever reason, even if your theory is they're losing power, that the reality has to turn the absurdity meter up to just 10 out of 10, pin the dial. That is ultimately a good thing. It shows a sense of desperation, that certain things need to be done so certain people wake up to it, and the people around us, if they, again, getting another phone call, is there anything left in the absurdity meter? Well, yeah, we could tell people, like, you've seen this floated around the truth community, tell people that this thing, the C thing, hangs out at 3 feet in the air, so you get into Wawa, you crawl around. We've talked about this. Like if they told people that it's if you put your head up, you're at risk, and you crawl around to get your milk and eggs, that people would actually do it. And you say, in terms of we could have one more notch. It would be saying, per our current presentation of what we're presenting, the C thing, we could say if you rise up above 3 feet, you are really putting yourself at risk. You got to crawl around to get your milk and eggs. And then when you go into a convenience store like Wawa, it's going to present. They're going to take this things right from the Disney rides, right from Six Flags. You need to be this high to get on this roller coaster. They're going to take those things and put them in the convenience store. Say you get above this thing. Say, well, like a 7-year-old child is going to ride a roller coaster. If you get above this, you're putting yourself and everybody around you at risk. You don't take care of yourself. You make sure you take care of everybody else. You're putting everybody at risk. So you got to stay below this roller coaster threshold of who can get on the Six Flags ride, and put that in every 7-Eleven and every Wawa, and people crawl around underneath it. So if they turn the meter to those levels, where most people watch this video be like, yeah, most people would go along with that. Okay, but the point of this presentation is, why does it have to do that? And since we never go far enough, the reality is breaking down. That's another explanation people will give, that it's as simple as the matrix breaking down. That's why it's becoming absurd, Matt. You're assuming that they want to make it absurd to wake more people up, but consider that people are waking up. They're doing the best they can to hold on to their power, and it's just breaking down. Their mechanism itself, whatever the screen is, the Cerebro Xavier device, is breaking down on its own. Maybe there's millions of different theories, but at least we can agree on two things: that it is the meters going higher and higher, and um, it's overall, as it goes more and more towards the absurd, it's a good thing for us, for, at least for the wheat. It's a good thing. Um, and what was I going to say about that the last part? I don't know. I lost my train of thought, guys. How long have I been talking? Almost 30 minutes. Um, the concept is, why do they need to do it? And I'll really look forward to looking at your comments, even if it's just a complete, But things got absurd before the recent few years. I mean, remember in 2001, I'm going to say that a tire appeared under the North Tower. They didn't need that. See, that's the absurdity elements are on steroids now, but they've always been there. They've been there for a long time, and and this is why I've always talked about mistakes on purpose. It's there for us to notice. It has to be there for us to notice. You didn't need a tire, an inflated tire for the event to be believed. 2, 3 massive skyscrapers coming down is usually good enough to have the masses believe in the event. You didn't have one guy in Skokie saying, I would have believed it. The 3 skyscrapers coming down was impressive in terms of me believing the news, but if there would have been a tire on the ground, then I would have believed it. But I really, it didn't do enough for me. Maybe if there was an inflated tire, then I would have believed it. You didn't need that. You don't need the scholarship for our buddy Chris, the sweet boy. You don't need the scholarship in a few hours after the event. You don't need that. It's there on purpose. So this whole presentation relates to mistakes on purpose. The absurdity meter being pinned absolutely relates to the conversation about why mistakes on purpose have to be there. And I did remember what I was going to say. I was going to say, we never go far enough. We've never gone to here and said, oh, we really went way too far in terms of how ridiculous and crazy this is. We're going to back off. It's much more normal than we thought. No, we think it's like really kind of weird, and then it turns out to be 10 times worse. So in terms of we never go far enough, if we need to apply that, and why would that theory ever break, or that's like an axiom of this reality? That being said, that means that if I'm saying the news as it's presenting itself now is a 10 out of 10 on the absurdity meter, somebody would say, Matt, you say we never go far enough. That means it's only like a 6 out of 10. They got a whole 4 notches to make it even more absurd. Well, hopefully, fine. Yes, I would hope they turn those 4 notches, break the plausibility theory that I believe it was Neil, put forth, and then have a complete cascade of millions and millions of people finally pointing at it like 100 monkeys going, I don't know, Matt's been sending me these emails. Maybe he's right, because this is ridiculous. Maybe to have a headless cab driver moment. I don't know. But, oh gosh, talk this long, sometimes you lose your train of thought. There was one more thing I wanted to say. Why does it need to present the absurdity to the degree in which it does? And this has been going on a long time. The President Nixon and Neil and Buzzed Cauldron conversation, that is a mistake on purpose. There's one of the original mistakes on purpose that didn't need to be in the story. It just didn't. It wasn't like millions and millions of people aren't going to believe in Apollo 11 if they didn't see a live conversation between President Nixon and you didn't need it. You didn't need it. It was like one of the original mistakes on purpose. There were many as well, in my opinion, in the Debbie Does Dallas Plaza. You don't need some of these ridiculous elements there to get us to notice. And I guess I did remember the last thing I wanted to say. For anybody screaming at me saying, well, Matt, a month or two ago you presented what Michael Hoffman talked about, the revelation of the method, how ultimately they will be found out, how reality ultimately operates will be found out, and the revelation of the method, it needs to be the truth is revealed in a certain way where conspiracy theorists are used to actually bring the truth into reality, to where where the truth of how things really work is accepted, and people are habituated to it. And in a way, the truth community is used on the first level of just of bringing the truth forward, but also on a metaphysical level to help the reality that wants to move forward with a certain understanding, have the cement dry on what is considered normal and acceptable, like the Snowden revelations, for example. Snowden, there's no real guy that wanted to help anybody. It's all a show. It's all an act. It's no different than Julian Assange and the WikiLeaks. They made a movie about. If they make a movie about it, I was convinced this was real, but then they made a movie about it, and oh yeah, then that's bullcrap. Then well, it's all you need to know when they make a movie about it. For the most part, Julian Assange, it's all bullcrap. It's all cooked up. But see, the conspiracy people for years before that, I'm telling my aunt, remember the conversation, every bit of it, saying, you really, every single email you send, they're reading it. Every single text, they're collecting, they're reading. Your phone conversations, it's digital. It's all digital. That's collected. How long they store it, I don't know. And then the only, it's the same old excuses. Well, I have nothing to hide, and if it can be used to stop one T-ism event, then I'm okay with it. I have nothing to hide. That's all. They just keep parroting the same stuff. The zombies go to they run the same scripts, and some of them which they get, in my opinion, for like some sort of download or some stuff. They've already been downloaded, and they pull the files. It is accessing file, conspiracy theory, file 300. I have nothing to hide. And if it prevents one T-ism event, then every one of my texts should be read, Matt, and every one of your emails should be read. What do you have to hide? They just pull the same scripts. So, what was I saying about that? The Snowden and Assange, the conspiracy theorists were, I'm telling my aunt, everything's being, all the spying, everything's being read. There is no Fifth Amendment anymore. I believe it might be the fourth, fifth, or sixth, being a Bill of Rights, securing your own property and your own private effects. And the conspiracy theorists talk about it, and people like my aunt hear the conspiracy theorists like me talking about it. This goes back to the revelation of the method of how they're using the truthers. And then she'll never give me any credit that I told her so, but then she'll go see the Assange movie, the Fifth Estate, I guess it was called, and the Snowden movie that just says, they're collecting every bit of information. And you have Alex Jones for years talking about your Samsung TVs, listening to every word you say and saying. So it all comes out, and they use ultimately they'll finally use the movies to cement it. And then at that point, everybody's running the same download that, well, if it prevents one T-ism event, and I have nothing to hide, I guess it's okay if they completely invade my privacy and destroy the Bill of Rights. But ultimately, the truth community was used initially to plant some of those seeds. It is beyond, it's an evil genius in terms of how they pull this shit off. I don't like using these flattery terms. What am I supposed to say? That their methods suck? What do you can talk about it if you don't give energy to it. You can talk about it in a more of an academic way like this without empowering it. I believe that. To ultimately figure certain things out, which ultimately, again, figuring things about ourselves, we have to talk about it. And I can't say it sucks if it was pulled off pretty skillfully. All right, so it gets back to, but even the Michael Hoffman stuff, I don't know who is this guy. I don't know who this person is. Even that could easily be I don't trust anybody. Could be a deception, meaning that it makes this revelation of the method stuff makes sense at the first level, but maybe ultimately what it's about, the metaphysical level. The truthers being used to accept something's happening, like the spying, like every email's being read, and then to cement that back into reality from as creative souls and spirits. So then now that it's introduced into reality, it allows the rest of the people around us or our family to accept it or to realize it. It's not, that's second and third level stuff. That's how they really use us in ways we can't understand. metaphysical ways, the hardening of the cement, things like that. But oh boy, I guess that's it, guys. The question is, why is the absurdity meter redlining? Why does it have to be? If it could get a little worse, it probably will get a little absurd. And my theory right now is it's just what this reality is designed to do for real spirits, real souls. If it's not creating enough wheat to the tares, it has to get a little bit more ridiculous, a little more mistakes on purpose, so a few people notice, and then will they transmute that? Will they use that to not to completely then study a fake reality for the rest of their lives? Will they use that to better themselves? And I've been very, very good at step two, and I'm a good person. I mean, I'll save spiders and do all this stuff, but I have a whole lot of work to do at step three. Um, and we'll talk about that later. But thanks for watching, guys. I look forward to reading your comments.